what does the term real woman mean to you?
For me, I've been taught that real woman is like a sacrificial lamb, in a way. So your value is measured according to how much you're able to serve other people, and it's like the more of yourself you're willing to kill, then the more of a woman you are, the more of a hero you are. So women are raised to have this like savior complex, and it's instilled in you as a child. So our first toys as girls are doll houses and babies and kitchen sets. And I remember growing up, if my brother was playing with any of my dolls, it would be taken off him and given to me because I'm supposed to be playing with it. So I was taught that my job is to nurture people and to save other people. And so that's what the world tells us that a real woman is. And it's such an unfair expectation set on women, because you end up growing up to build yourself around this idea that you're here to fix the world rather than to actually focus on yourself.
It's difficult as well, because also that term real woman, it lends itself to fat shaming, slut shaming, transphobia. There are so many ways in which people try to kind of deal with the confines of womanhood, like, and they tell you what it is. So, you know, real women have curves, but what are you talking about? Because I don't have curves. And what are you? Do you know what are curves?
You can be slim and still be curvy.
Right. But then at the same time, I understand that that was a response to all that we ever used to see in media was like slim, white women, blonde women. That's all we were given.
Salad.
Yeah, always laughing at salad, and that gets me vexed. Real women laugh at salad. Why? You can go on like Google right now and just Google like fit happy woman, and all you'll see white women laughing at salad, and it bothers me. But it's what we're told, like we should just be happy with this plate of almost nothing. And just, you know, all for the sake of looking a particular way. So men will go like, oh, well done. Every so often, maybe every 2 days, another woman will pop up on social media saying, real women don't go to the club. They stay at home and they did it. But you've written all of that and still no man's checking for you. So how's life? How's it going for you there? Huh?
Has he texted you yet?
Huh?
Has he
Speak
replied to you
louder.
yet?
Yes.
It's so true.
Yeah, so it's just, I feel that whenever you hear the term real woman, it's followed by something that's meant to actually denigrate and refine the expansive nature of all of us as women. And at the end of the day, as other people might want to argue with me, but womanhood is a construct in itself. And therefore, I feel that trans women comfortably fit into the narrative of womanhood because it's not real, you know? So, but it's a means by which people have identified for centuries now. So it's going to be odd if you turn around and say to them, well, I don't really ascribe to these notions, because then you seem like the wild woman, like the crazy woman, as it were. And that's sometimes tiring.
And then you get punished for that as well. And that punishment includes being ostracized, being judged, being called slut, whore, hoe. But then on the other hand, the women who actually maintain and uphold that structure, which is patriarchy, are known as pick-me's. And they're the ones, like you were saying, that be like, oh, I don't go to the club. I stay at home and wait for my husband to come and, you know, be fed, and I have to burp him and clean his toes. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, when they do these things, it's like, I'm just imagining a woman, like, putting a diaper on the
baby,
man.
you're home. Come and sit
And then
down.
there's breast-
How was work today? You big, strong man. You want me to feed you? Up in your mouth. It's ridiculous. You infantilize him and then you say that he's the head of the home. Like, it's wild. So let men be men, you know, like let women be women in the construct of whatever womanhood is and what manhood is.
What do you reckon let men be men means?
When people say let men be men, usually they're saying let a man brack up a woman and, you know, that's fine. And that's like ruin her life and just, that's fine. Because usually you hear let men be men after they've inflicted some kind of violence. No one says let men be men when I don't know, they're building schools for places where there are no schools or where they're digging wells. No one's saying let men be men. No, they're not saying it then. It's, oh, he wants to have, you know, a wife and 5 girlfriends. Let men be men. What do you expect of him? He's born to sow his seeds. But why can't he have another type of manhood that's beneficial to us all?
If we're really going with the whole concept of sowing seeds, if we look at a flower, how many different bees get to pollinate that flower? Many bees. So if you're telling me that a man can be spreading seeds and I can actually be catching as many mans as I want to, if that's really how it works, but why is it when it comes to me, I'm policed, but then when it comes to men, they're allowed to have the freedom and the benefit of humanity?
To just do whatever they like. So yeah, real women, it's an issue for me because I remember tweeting before and saying Happy Women's Day to all women, and lo and behold, a woman jumped up in my mentions, a self-identifying Nigerian woman, and she goes, I said Happy Women's Day to all women, including womanhood doesn't just include having a vagina. And I think that that's important to say as well, because if you inextricably link womanhood to the functions, to the reproductive organs of a person, then what, if for instance, they decide never to have children, are they no longer women, or they can't have children, or they need to have it removed? What does it then mean for them to not be using their womb? You know, so I said, womanhood isn't just about vaginas. And she said, well, if you're trying to include trans women in this, they're not really women. So we had to go back and forth, and I am more than happy to just let other people have their views, but I'm not that socially tied to womanhood that I'm crying if other people want to claim it. It's different if we're talking about blackness.
Maybe she's wrapped her value around her version of womanhood, which is all about, you know, aligning with the structures of patriarchy, and she feels like her value comes entirely from men telling her that she's a real woman.
Yeah.
And so you have basically just broken down her reality, and she doesn't know how to respond to that.
Yeah, I feel like I get annoyed when people say the phrase, but to me it's like it's not that deep. Like obviously the struggles that women have gone through throughout centuries, yes, and girlhood is hard, because girlhood is where you really start learning all of the idioms and the kind of ideals that are going to keep you subjugated later on in life if you're not careful. You start learning it from there. Like, I don't know what it was like for other people, but I know that once I had my period, for instance, the first thing you hear, you're not taught really about the hygiene of what you should be doing around your period and what it means scientifically. It's just,
or you get pregnant.
If you even blink at a boy, you will see yourself in this house. You will see me and I will see you. And like, we see each other. Yeah. It's, as Nini would say. Yeah, like that. All I got was fear. I didn't get like actual education.
For myself, I started my periods quite early at 12, and my mum did go through the whole hygiene. But when my aunties or other like cousins was like, "Oh, you can't be around boys now," and it's like, I'm 12. Yeah. I'm 12. I'm still going to be doing what I want to do. I'm still going to be on my bike, you know. I think the term real woman, in my opinion, for the experience that I went through, I think is manipulative. I think it's restrictive. It's restricting. I think it takes away the essence of a woman who just wants to be herself. So I was in a really crazy relationship about 2 years ago, and my useless ex, when we finished, he was trying to tell me that I wasn't a real woman because
You didn't coddle him enough. I
didn't accept his emotionally abusive ways, and the example that he used was, this is so embarrassing because like, why was I even there?
It's what it is. We've been there.
He put up a post of Gucci Man and his wife, and explained their whole scenario. You know, a real woman will stick with you when you're going through this and this and this. That's why I think the terminology "real woman" is very manipulative. Yeah. I hate it. I hate hearing it because there's no such thing as a real woman. Like you said,
I refuse to.
It's a fallacy.
It doesn't exist.
It's not possible. There's no real woman, and all of these people that you're even basing it on, they are constructs themselves. Like, they're not being real to themselves. And every time you want to give me like an example of a real woman, it's one woman that has been lying down on the floor for some man to come and stamp on her head, and that's not me. I've got an entire life to live, and it's like we were saying earlier, it's this all-enduring type of person that will just put up with everything. Oh, you go to jail, don't worry, I'll wait for you. You do this, don't worry, I'll be... Me!
Who am I waiting for?
And when you go to women's jails, when you go to women's prisons, how many male visits do you
How are you coming to visit? Where are you coming to visit me? As a man, where are you coming to visit me? 50 Cent is asking people 21 questions. Answer the question yourself. Would you love me on the Bentley? Would you love me in the bus? I don't know. I just don't know. Answer's probably no, but you know, it is what it is. But you're meant to answer those 21 questions, and then you're ride or die. I am not a ride or die, and I feel like that's what a real woman's all about, like riding or die. I'm not riding, and I can't come and die. I can't come and kill myself.
As Florence Nightingale said, I can't come and kill myself.
Not in this economy. I'm not doing it. Not in this.
Then it's like this ride or die thing. Again, for me, I found it very harmful because all the women who ride end up dying. That's the thing. It's like they say ride or die, but it often comes at the expense of your life.
It's riding and dying. You will die.
The man remains alive to go and ruin someone else's life. Yeah. So it's a cycle that they think, the world thinks that women are here to break this cycle. As usual, women are here to repair everything. Fix the broken men who refuse to fix themselves, and we have to fix ourselves too. But then what we refuse to actually address is the fact that we have broken women who have managed to fix themselves.
Yes.
But then broken men who have come from the same environment as broken women are unable to fix themselves, but yet they're like, oh no, like why can't women help us? And if you're so angry about it, then you should be helping us rather than like talking to us like we're bad people. So on top of you killing me, I should be congratulating you for not killing me.
And I should be helping you to not kill me. But I think that that's a really, really salient point. It's a really important point. The fact that I make no qualms about talking about the childhood trauma that I experienced, and the fact that I had to go through therapy and a lot of things and a lot of methods to help myself start this, journey of healing. Because I don't think you ever heal. You just continue healing, because every time you just kind of develop or you discover a new crevice of pain that you haven't addressed. So it's a path. And I'm happy on that path. And I found my way there, but you're telling me, but you're telling me I should go and now start.
Men aren't choosing to want to heal. They're just like, oh, someone should just come into my life and just like answer all my questions, fix all my problems. Whereas you as a woman, you've been like, there's a lot of pain in my life. I'm going to take active, necessary steps to actually rectify this, e.g. through therapy, e.g. through reading up on things and really making peace with yourself. Men are not doing that. They have a responsibility for themselves.
Are you able to put all men under the same category and say that all men aren't doing that?
No. I feel like when we say men, it's more construct. Again, it comes back to that thing. And I think that that's probably what's missing from the conversations that are happening online. Because I think that social media could actually be used as a platform where we have discussions that benefit us all. But most times it just turns into shouting, and people missing the points that have been said. And I constantly say that when I'm talking about men, women, whiteness, I'm talking about a construct. I'm not talking about individual people. So now that you've come and cry and lie down in my mentions, what is that going to do for you? Like, you're actually proving my point. Look at how you're behaving. But for someone who is emotionally healthy and stable, they'll read what I've said and be like, you know what, that is the truth about this construct that we all identify within, in different ways, and we have to interact with. That's a healthier way to think about it. Like the whole men are trash thing, I don't tend to tweet it myself, not because I don't believe in what's been said, but because I know that people are missing the point. And so I will find a long-winded way of saying the same thing, but it's still being said. I think that using just 3 words to say it would just mean that they come and they just do the most. But I don't believe that all men, it's not possible for it to be all men. And I wish that men would understand that themselves and not come to you when you're having the discussion and go, yeah, but not all men. Yeah, we literally know it's not all men.
Yeah, but not me, I'm not a bad one.
Right.
If you're not a bad one, that's good. Congratulations.
But it's actually a red flag that you're seeing this entire conversation and all you wanted to say is I'm not one of them, because you're ignoring what's actually being said. So I think, that's definitely important to say. And I think that it will be hypocritical to say, we have an issue with being called real women and this and that, and then say, but all men are one thing. That's the exact point. We're not all one thing. We're not all monolith. We're not a monolith. Like, we all have our individual experiences that make us unique, and we should celebrate that. If a girl wants to watch 10 guys, leave her in peace. Like, let her do it. If she's not doing it from a like unhealthy, an unhealthy place, whether it's physically or emotionally, what is your own? Is it your father? Is it your uncle?
And even if it is your father, you have no ownership over me, Because that falls into the whole conversation about like marriage and how I feel like marriage in a Western way is very much about like trading ownership of the daughter between like the man that's going to marry her and the father. Like, I'm literally being handed over. And even in our culture in Nigeria, we have something called bride price
and dowry.
Dowry.
How does that work for people that don't understand?
So someone wants to marry me, like a man wants to marry me. He comes to my father. It has to be my father or the male elder in the family and says, I want to marry this woman in your household, this girl in your household. And they say, you can marry her, but in return, we want like 10 yams, we want 3 chickens, we want this, we want that, we want this. And then he will bring all of the things and they'll be like, yes, now you can go with our daughter, you can have our daughter.
Is that symbolically what a woman is worth?
Yeah.
I'm struggling
So
with
that's where
understanding
bride
that.
price comes in, because
Okay.
based on all the things that she's capable of doing, it will drive up what they ask for.
So basically,
if you know, like, she's
clout goes
worthless,
up.
you're gonna ask for like 1 yam. Like, just okay, half a yam. Just give me half a yam. Honestly, just give it to me. But no one would actually ask for half a yam. But yeah, so based on how valuable they think she is as a woman and what she, you know, is she a virgin? Is she able to raise children and all of that, or rear children? That will drive up
The clout.
the price. So even in that traditional aspect, that she's property.
Yeah.
She's property. The property of her father. That's why she has his surname, and then she now, through yam and goat and chicken, you now exchange ownership, because that's in contract law. Like, I studied contract law at uni. That is what it is. Someone makes an offer, you accept the offer, but you accept it on the basis of some sort of remuneration or consideration. What you got in response, or in you know, for remuneration, was this thing: yams, goats, and whatever to feed your household, or maybe to
Is it
supply
like
things
compensation for while she's gone?
yeah, or just to, like, even to fund the celebrations. So that's why, you know, I don't know if you've seen it much, but you know, like when you watch romantic films and they talk about women getting married, and it's usually the girl's parents that pay for the marriage or the wedding.
Yeah.
It's because it's a celebration that, oh my God, someone's taking her, so we have our final party. Come and pack your loads and be going. So, so that's why it's done that way. And ideally, they would have already given something for her. And so that makes me uncomfortable.
Same.
But I'm not radical enough to be
How
like,
do you feel
I'm
about
giving up my
marriage?
surname.
Yeah, how
do you
does
feel
that
about
make you
marriage?
feel about?
Do you want to, like, do you see yourself as someone that wants to be married at some
Well,
point?
I'm getting married in July. so upon all that, stretching my long lips to say everything, upon all of that, I'm still getting married in July.
We love
What
it.
a fraud!
I love that. After all of that, or anyway, I'm getting married.
Yes, invite them in the post.
Bye, girl. No, I love it. Like,
No, but it's important because
leverage.
It's what I want, you know, and I think that that's probably one of the hardest things about feminism, or the feminisms. Like, you unlearn so many things, and you're aware of the notions of so many things and how they contribute to upholding patriarchy. But there are some aspects of it that you're just like, "Ugh." Oh God.
That's how I feel every day. 'Cause, like, I'm a feminist and I'm
Yeah.
like a really hardcore one, but then I'm still attracted to men. So it's
So
like,
it's just like, what do you do? What do you do?
What would you say to men who feel offended?
I have nothing to say to
by-
any man who feels offended by feminism. I have nothing to say to you.
You know, some men might listen to this conversation
Yeah.
and be like, "What are they talking about?" Or "This doesn't make any sense to me." Or they're not talking about people that I know or myself. So
Yeah.
what would you say to men like that?
Congratulations. You know, like, if I'm not talking about any people that you know, that's good. You surrounded yourself with some, I hope, decent people, or they're just very good pretenders. I don't know, but congratulations. For even getting this far in the conversation. Wow, 3 women having a conversation and you're still listening. Wonderful.
3 black women
So,
as well.
right. So it's not much. I think I've passed the stage where I feel like I need to explain and reassure men. I think that you need to up your viva if you are struggling to have basic nuanced conversations about gender
internet
constructs and
access.
things like that. Like, maybe come back to this in 5 years, come back to watch this exact same video in about 5 years, and hopefully your views, by God's grace, your views would have changed, and it would have evolved, and you would meet us back there, but we'll be
Yeah.
forward.
Because the onus is always on women, especially black women, to again be negotiating our humanity with people. It's like, with us here articulately explaining how it works, and you're still sitting there confused and mind boggled and like, but how? That's no longer my responsibility anymore. It's now up to you to go out there into the world, use the internet access. The same 4G that you're using to be cackling on the internet, use that to follow black women like myself and silently read their tweets and learn. You can literally Google feminism.
Yeah.
You can find access to all these things. If you can find, listen, guys do this thing, right? And like, it's a particular group of guys that have this particular mindset that we're speaking about. They'll do this thing where, like, they're watching football, for example, and they can tell you why this guy has missed a free kick because his leg was hurting last season. They'll be able to tell you all that.
Yeah.
But then they won't be able to understand why women feel oppressed by a system that men uphold.
Right. You know which players were playing for Arsenal from 1996 to 2005 by name. And you know all of the goals that they scored and which angle they scored it from and how many offsides they had in their entire career, even all of the red cards. Can you understand why women are sometimes, you know, intimidated by masculinity, you know, toxic masculinity? Nah, don't get it. Don't understand. You lot, it's not that deep at the end of the day. But,
Just say you hate men. And
just say you hate men and go, oh. But all of those things you remember. Arsene is going. You can tell Arsene every game that every game that he's played and how he's played it. You know all of that. But
and
you
also,
don't know
just
this.
to clear things up, because people think that feminists hate men, but if you actually think about the system that we live in, would you say that it's illogical to hold resentment towards the very group that oppress you? It doesn't make any sense to actually police my feelings and tell me that I should not be angry about the fact that your mere existence reduces my safety in this world. So if a woman wants to be angry at all men, she actually has every right to. And if she doesn't want to be angry at all men, that's also her right. Like, you cannot tell a woman how to respond to oppression.
And I think that it's so easy, like it's not easy, but it's easier, I think, for a lot of people to understand racism. But for some reason, when you take out race, and you can't ever take out race when you're talking about black women because our race and our gender are other things that intersect and bring us this unique experience within society. But let's just move race out of it for gender out of it for a second and just talk about race. We all understand how racism works. We all understand that you will feel resentment towards an oppressive system that keeps you out of opportunities. You understand that. Now, if you just factor in gender in that and how, although we have this racial construct, the construct of patriarchy means that men benefit more simply by being men. Surely that should now make it more understandable when we're talking about race, I would hope. And so I've kind of just moved away from trying to be radical in how I explain things. I just think it's best to just say it how it is. And if you want to listen, you can listen. If you don't, you don't. And I think the marriage thing is really interesting because oftentimes when I say things on the internet, she doesn't have a man. Who hurt you? Who hurt you? Where's your man? Where's your man? And you're like, I've been in a relationship for a really long time, but I just don't come and do, I don't come and dance on the, I don't come and dance on the internet for you. Somebody has taken me. Somebody loves me. Somebody loves me. So there's no point because I'm a whole entire human being outside of my relationship, and it's my interest that I come on the internet to talk about, not about my relationship.
But then that's a really interesting point you've made about women celebrating being chosen, because I've seen a rise in this culture of women going out of their way to share videos about them being engaged. And this is not to say that you shouldn't share your joy, and it's not coming from like an angry, jealous or bitter approach, but it's more just, I've noticed that there's been a rise in that, and I've noticed how people respond to women, being engaged and like the congratulations. But then I think there is some sort of rise in social status when you do get engaged, and when someone sees that you've been cuffed by a man.
There is, and I make a point of not wearing an engagement ring. I have an engagement ring. I designed my engagement ring, but I don't wear it.
Why?
For the simple fact that I don't want you to be nicer to me just because you now know that I'm engaged, and I feel that there is definitely a softening of character when I'm interacting with other women, married women especially, when they hear that I'm engaged. Somehow we get onto that subject. God, you're not a whore. About my man. God.
I don't know where that just came from.
It's like we can be nice to you now because you're not
People
smart.
treat you nice when you're pretty, engaged, skinny.
Do you think there is such a thing as like engagement privilege?
Oh,
Yeah.
of course. There's pretty privilege. There is light skin privilege. There is engagement privilege. Like, you get treated better. It's almost like because I used to have that internalized mindset where if I knew a girl who was engaged, I wanted to like hang around her more. Yeah. Because I felt like if I behaved like her, then
someone will come and
rescue me from myself as well.
But it's not. It's a prison. Being single is not a prison. I feel like enjoy the time to really cultivate the interests that you have, like really have a strong sense of who you are. Because oftentimes I find that when people end up, get into relationships, they start to merge and meld, and that's part of the beauty of being in relationships. But when it gets to the extent that you no longer know who you are, and we're having a conversation and every time it's we, who are you speaking French? Who are you referring to. I'm talking to you as an individual. What would you like a drink? We've decided that we don't really drink tap water anymore. We switched to more. What? Who's we? Because no one's here with you. So
It's true. You become a unit.
you become a unit, and that's the beauty of partnership. That you become a unit, you become stronger. But when it means that you lose your sense of self, then I'm not with it. And I think that oftentimes that's what people are celebrating. Like, I know that I'm not changing my last name. Well, I'm not changing it in the sense of like I'm open to being double-barreled, but there's no way in hell that I'm leaving my last name. Oh, but it's your father's name. So if you were such a feminist, why? But it's a name that's still, it's my identity. Like, I've had this identity for about 31 years, and all of a sudden, because of one human with a penis, I will now fling it away. And no, it's not. And if I would be open to it if we both changed our names to something, but that's not the case. So let me just.
Do you feel like women, as a woman that's engaged, and I think a lot of married women face this as well, do you get women coming up to you asking you for like advice and stuff? Like, but a different, not like normal advice, like, oh, hey, like, I'm dealing with this guy and I'm like really like lost. But like people like, how did you do it? Like, what did you do?
And that's why I don't mention it. Let's talk about the things that affect us societally. I'm not giving you in relationship advice. And if I wanted to do that, I'd set up a YouTube channel, but I didn't. So I don't feel like I'm equipped also to give you that advice, because I'm one individual that has taken very problematic means of getting to where I am. So who am I to be telling you what you should be doing? You know? And I think that sometimes some people get rings, and the moment they get rings, it's like, I've got a seminar happening in October to tell you all about how you can go about, you know, really securing your dreams of marriage. It'll be £55. Look forward to seeing you all there. There's no point. Nobody has that juice, nobody has that sauce. Don't come and lie to me.
I want to ask, how do we as a society dismantle the term real woman? How do you reckon we can do that?
It's like saying, like, how do we dismantle the N-word? It's like, to dismantle the word is a symptom of a greater malaise, which is white supremacist patriarchy, to be very, very specific, because patriarchy in itself, I think that it's unfair to just say patriarchy, because there's patriarchy and there's matriarchy. Like, we can't just say that. We've got to say the infectious one, call it out for what it is. We would have to dismantle that for that to go away, because actually when we talk about real women, we're talking about male consumption. We're talking about womanhood in tandem with what men want, or what men have been indoctrinated to believe that they want. So we'd have to get rid of that. And that's an entire system. Like, that's generations of work. That's all of us raising children to know better. That's not going to happen right now. You're not going to change the thinking of people who are here right now.
For me, I feel like if we want that change, I think women should just focus on being individuals, and just like Kelechi was saying, just like cultivate a life where, regardless of someone's presence or absence, you're still a full person.
Yes.
Everybody should just aspire to be a person before aspiring to be, you know, in a relationship, or aspiring to have anything external that adds value to you. I feel like everybody can have value in themselves by just figuring out who they are. And I feel like it's not any woman's job to dismantle a system that we didn't even create. Some women uphold it unknowingly, but they're behaving in a way that is because of a mindset that they've been fed, where they feel like they'll be treated as better people by the very people who oppress them. And so I feel like if we want to dismantle, you know, this whole idea of what a real woman is, men have to hold each other accountable and have that conversation amongst themselves. Because in the same way, women have been able to create feminism by gathering and having conversations and creating a structure that will allow us to actually approach this in a way that makes sense. So men have to do that as well, or else nothing is going to change by women killing ourselves to try and fix something that is still being upheld by the very people who have more power than us.
I feel like men need to nurture each other. Like Chidera was saying, like, women managed to create a sisterhood. Black women specifically, managed to create womanism, to be there to support each other. We created literary works to send this knowledge far and wide. The internet is such a great tool, because men can communicate across oceans with each other and come up with a better way of living for themselves, and also speaking out against the things that harm them. you know, the societal things that harm them, because that's important as well. We're not all working from healed places. So yeah, I think that that's important, for there to be a true brotherhood that isn't based on bitches and hoes. It's based on just genuine concern for each other and their mental health and their emotional health. Like that's
I think that's really lacking from society.
Yeah.
I think young men need something like that.
Yeah.
And there's so many men out there, young boys that don't have, we were discussing this in a other podcast, there's so many young men and children that don't have elders or mentors or anybody around them that could guide them. And if they knew that there was like a committee of people that they can actually go to and be taught that, you know, this emotion that you're feeling is valid. You're allowed to feel this.
Yeah.
You're allowed to do this. You can go and do this. Like, but they don't have that. So do you think that then leads, well, I think it's obvious, that then leads into hypermasculinity?
It does, because...
Well, what is hypermasculinity?
Hypermasculinity, I feel like it's another prison. It's a prison that's been inflicted upon men, and that's what keeps me soft when I get messages that are really ignorant. I remember that these men who are sending these messages are working from wounded places, in that they've been sold a dream, and it's actually to their detriment. Hypermasculinity serves nobody. It's great to understand that hypermasculinity is part of toxic masculinity, but that doesn't mean masculinity is bad. We all possess masculine and feminine energy. We all do. But it's the fact that we're denying men the right to feel all of their energies, and they're being confined to just one, and then that one energy being exacerbated and all the factors of it being exaggerated, that stops them from even being softer, feeling all the things that they want to feel. Why can't a man, to the extreme, why can't a man just sit there and cry? So many women I know have said, like, if they saw their partner crying, they would feel really weird. But why? What? Why would you not want your partner to feel all of their emotions? Like, I think there's a study that says that women speak about 2,000 words a day. Men speak around 200 and something. And that's not fair. That's not fair that's been the way that men have been sold to us. If you look at all of these sexy romance novels, you know, they're Mills and Boon, and you always get the man, the archetype, strong, silent. Why is he silent? Like, why doesn't he have words? So those things are important.
Yeah. Okay, so that leads to the next question. Does having little money affect men and women the same?
No.
I think it affects genders differently, because for me, when I'm a woman who hasn't got money, there have been times when I haven't had money, I haven't felt as ashamed as I would feel if I was a man. Because for men, their masculinity is wrapped around their ability to provide. And if you can't provide, then you're not man enough, and then you deserve to be, you know, punished for that.
Yeah. And then that plays out when we see movies, and sometimes the things that men say, it's a fear that's projected that, everyone always knows this woman. They always know this woman, that she earned more than her husband, and she started like whipping him with a belt every time she came home from work. Like, you know, like just really outlandish things. But I understand where it comes from. The fact that masculinity is inextricably linked to the duty of providing. And when society all around you is telling you that you're a man, you go to work, you're the breadwinner, historically you were a caveman, you were out in the fields doing this and you were doing that, and like, actually historically that's not factually correct. But okay, whatever. But yeah, it's you have to go and get all of these things and bring it home for it to be cooked and everything else done with it. And that's not fair. What if a man wants to stay at home and just knit? Why can't he just live his best life? Why can't he do that? And it's just sad. It's sad the ways in which, like, I can see that men in the construct don't get to like explore all of their interests, because their goal or the aim that they've been sold is that you must go out and earn as much money as possible so you can acquire possessions like a woman, like a nice car, like a nice house, and then acquire your children as well. And everything belongs to you and it's your kingdom. Yeah. And some people see past that. They see that actually I don't own anybody and I just want a family so I can nurture them and they nurture me and we just grow together. Yeah, like Chidera said, like as a woman, there have been times when I was at uni, and this was years ago, my God. So I was at uni in 2007. So 2007, I only had like 32p, and I would count. I counted. Wait, why are you laughing? I remember specifically.
No shame to anybody who doesn't know what 32p.
It's so.
I remember specifically having 32p.
Yeah.
Because that was the price of orange juice from Lidl. And I'd spent all my loan.
How are we not supposed to know?
I'd spent all my loan money. On what? On being a baby girl. On going raving. And buying shoes.
You had money,
And buying shoes that nobody asked me to go and buy. So at this point, I was finishing one of my essays. I had 32p, and I went to Lidl so I could make sure that I could buy orange juice and these cookies that Maryland used to do. And 32p would buy me everything exactly. And so I was at uni in Liverpool, so thank God, because it was actually cheaper to live in Liverpool.
I was thinking 32p for both.
Not
Yeah, but I mean, this is 2007, so you know, life was decent.
Yeah, it was different back
So
then.
yeah, so I went to Lidl, bought that, carried on doing my essay, and would you believe I had the audacity to then dress up in the evening, do my hair, do my makeup, wear heels, force one guy to come pick me up and take me to the club, and I had the audacity to be standing there like, broke bitches, where the broke bitches at? You are the broke one, and you're projecting my brokenness into the club. But the reason that that's interesting to me, and I always remember that, is the fact that I had nothing at that point, you know, had no money really, but I could use the fact that I was feminine and I was going to dress up and do this to get someone else who probably had their, you know, they had he's a student too. Yeah. He has things to do with his money, but there was the expectation I'd placed on him that, well, you better drive. God, why am I going to get in a car with a student? Wait, Kelechi, where's your own car? In fact, where's your scooter? Where's your roller skate? Nowhere to be seen. But there was the expectation I'd placed on him to be able to do that. And then I would still go out and perform femininity or hyper femininity. I would go out and perform that because I could get away with it. And those are the things that aren't fair, that guys can even be at uni and they're expected to have so much when on the flip side, women aren't expected to have the same things that a guy has at uni, for instance.
But do you reckon that's because that, like, men are at an advantage where
definitely
they're not necessarily, like, for me, my viewpoint is like almost the opposite of what yours was when you were in uni, where I feel currently that I'm a woman, and as a woman who is shamed for being beautiful, I feel like the way the world speaks about sex workers is really harmful, because you're literally shaming women for making a living off being sexualized. And so I completely support sex workers, and I think it's absolutely smart to make money off being sexualized, because women get sexualized for free every single day. And so I feel like in a world where that is happening, it makes sense for me personally to put myself in a position where I align myself with rich men, so that I am in a way feeling like I'm being compensated for the fact that men benefit more than I do. And I feel like even when I'm in a relationship with a man, he's still benefiting off my presence more than I'm benefiting off his, because I'm offering him a space to heal and I'm offering him all those things. But because of the way the world is built, he isn't offering me any of that. So I feel like I'm already giving more than I'm getting. And so to be with someone who is financially able feels like more of a balance for me,
which I totally see, and I get it. I understand it. I just, as long as everyone's aware. So if I would only feel comfortable with that sort of positioning, as is my current relationship, if the man is aware that societally he has an advantage over me in terms of in terms of what he's earning. You know, we see that there are some anomalies here and there of women who are earning very, very well, but in a grand scheme of things, we're not earning like the richest men. We're not
earning what we should be earning.
So even when it came to deciding on how our bills are paid at home, we didn't do this whole we're going to split everything equally, because equally is not actually fair, because we have to take into account the differences in our income, and me being a black woman, how that disparity. So we split everything equitably. Like, you pay this much, which is probably 2/3 of everything, because you earn way more than I do. But it's the awareness and the conversation that we've had that this is why this is being placed like this, because the danger I find in aligning myself with rich men is that some of them just see you as a possession, because if they lack that awareness, they will just see you as another possession. So however you're internalizing what you're, why you're there, they still see you as another, I've got another beautiful thing.
It's like the story you told me of that guy who had money, and he was like, oh, I don't want you to work anymore. I don't want you to do it. You don't got to do anything anymore.
Oh,
now.
Some guy I was talking to and seeing for a while. He had like a lot of money, and he was just like, did not want me to pursue what I wanted to do. And I found that really scary.
Yeah.
I found it really scary, because I like to be surrounded by people who encourage me to excel in what I'm passionate about. And if you're coming to me and saying, listen, what you're doing here, it's demoralizing.
Yeah, but it's not even the monetary value. Sometimes we do these things because of how it makes our soul feel, the compensation, what we feel about it. Pole dancing is an interesting one, because that's where my main income.
And you're a pole fitness instructor, aren't
and that's where my that's where my main income comes from having a pole dance studio. And there are a number of guys that will see that and they'll go, yeah, I like you, but like, what do you think about strippers? Because it's a bit nasty, innit? Like, it's a bit nasty. What's nasty about it? You took your long throat with the money that you spent earning, dealing with white nonsense in your workplace. You took all of that money and you decided to go to a club, and notice the way that clubs are positioned. Women are positioned higher, not for the view, I feel, because it goes to show the difference in power. However much you feel like you're in power in that situation, she's the one that's above you. Yeah, and then you're taking your money and you're flinging it, and she just gathers the whole thing like this and goes to her house. So
how is that?
How am I meant to feel shamed for that?
Being paid for my work.
I can't visualize how that is not empowering for the woman.
Right.
Because you
just went and worked your ass off
for a whole week.
And
you've taken everything that to throw at somebody
to throw it in between my ass cheeks. Wow. God is great.
But then interestingly enough, though, I feel like one final point is that if you look at Kelechi, she's a multifaceted woman, and she stands for everything that she chooses to stand for, including being a black feminist, including being a woman who is like, I'm not settling for anything less than what I deserve. And she still is with a person. She's still going to get married. So I feel like the world views women as this thing where, like, you're scared into not being a feminist, you're scared into not being passionate, because if you are, you'll never find a man. But Kelechi's situation goes to show that if you remain yourself, the person who's meant for you will still find you anyway.
I stayed on Kanye's workout plan. Here I am.